Hello, this is Ike Hoffman with Tactica Real Estate Solutions, and today we're going to be discussing the offset formula in Microsoft Excel and specifically its application in financial modeling. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The offset formula is unintuitive. It can be very hard to interpret, but it is critical if you're building or using financial models. This is part one of a two-part video series. Today we're going to be covering the syntax, and then we're going to jump into three different examples how I'm using offset in Tactica proformas. Part two, which is linked below, is going to cover specifically graphics, dynamic charts and graphs that will update automatically as the information in your model changes. I also have a written tutorial blog post on the offset function. Watching these two videos combined with this written tutorial should have you well on your way to maximizing the offset formula in its maximum capacity. If you've been enjoying Tactica's financial analysis content, I'd really appreciate if you liked the video, subscribed, and allowed us to notify you when we're releasing new video content. Let's begin. We use the offset formula when we want to indirectly refer to a cell or a range of cells in a dynamic manner. If that definition does nothing for you, you are in good company. Let's put this into real-world terms and set up an imaginary scenario. Let's pretend we're going for a hike. We happen to bump into each other, and shortly after meeting, we randomly uncover a vast treasure hidden in the woods. The treasure is so abundant that it will make us wealthy for generations to come. And we need to hide the treasure in order to preserve it. You seem like a trustworthy person, so we decide that we're going to dig a hole in your basement and hide the treasure there. I ask for your address. You don't give me your address. You instead give me GPS coordinates. At first, I'm confused and a little annoyed. Had you given me your address, I could do a quick Google search and know exactly where you live in a matter of seconds. But you're thinking 2 steps ahead of me. You understand that this treasure could last for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and your property address isn't permanent. In 100 years from now, your house could be paved over by a car dealership selling flying cars. Or in 500 years from now, we may all live on Mars. The GPS coordinates you gave me will always be valid no matter what happens to your housing address. In Excel's world, the GPS coordinates you gave me are very similar to an offset function. A well-constructed offset function can handle all the changes that are happening within an Excel workbook and still deliver an accurate and timely result. On the other hand, directly referring to cells is the equivalent of the property address in our imaginary scenario. It may work in the short term, it may be more efficient in the short term, but in the long run, it can be problematic and lead to inaccurate results. Offset is truly one of the most important formulas that I use consistently in all of my financial models. It allows me to create accurate analysis tools for thousands of real estate professionals with differing inputs and preferences. Let's jump into the offset syntax. The offset formula requires 5 arguments. There's a reference argument, a rows argument, columns, height, and width. Besides the reference, or the first argument required, all other arguments are optional. However, 99% of the time, you'll be using at least one argument on top of the reference argument. Let's open up an Excel workbook and look at some examples. I set up a 10 by 10 grid of numbers to help us master what each argument does within the offset function. So let's start with a reference cell. As a refresher, the reference cell is the only mandatory argument. Let's use cell B2, which is labeled as number 1, as our initial reference cell. I'm going to type that in to remember. B2 equals 1 is our reference cell. Now let's say I wanted to use this reference cell to reference cell B7, which contains number 51. Using an offset formula, I could type an offset reference as B2, and then rows, I'm going to set the row argument as 5. I'm going to leave all the other arguments blank by simply skipping over them, and then I'll close the bracket. So if we look at this formula, our reference cell is B2, and then it's counting down 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to get to 51. We can do the same thing with columns. If I wanted to reference number 8, I could do an offset B2 and count over 7 columns. So I'm going to leave the row argument blank, and now I'm going to type 7, and I'm going to skip the height and width arguments. And then it returns 8. Starting here, going over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can do rows and columns at the same time. If we wanted to grab 40 out of our grid, we could do an offset, reference B2, down 3 rows, over 9 rows, and it would return 40. We can also use a height and width argument. So let's say we see this cluster, this 12, 13, 22, and 23, and we want to grab all of those cells. To do that, equals offset, our reference cell is B2. We'll go down 1 row, over 1 column. Our height will be designated as 2 cells high. Our width will be designated as 2 cells wide. Close the bracket, and then it's going to return 12, 13, 22, and 23. We put a sum bracket and then close the bracket, and then I'm just going to copy and paste it below. Now the sum offset combination sums the 12 plus 13 plus 22 plus 23. What if we want to move in a different direction? So far we've only gone down and to the right. But what if we want to move up and to the left? Let's set cell K11 as our reference cell. So K11, which equals 100, is our new reference cell. And let's say we want to grab 60 from the grid of numbers. Our reference is K11, and then minus 4 for the row argument. We'll leave the other arguments blank, and it's going to grab 60. Let's move over 9 columns. So we're going to leave the row argument blank, and then the height and width blank, and then grab the 91. We can do this with rows and columns as well. If we wanted to grab the 76, equals offset, grab the K11, the reference cell, minus 2, minus 4, height and width blank, close it, and then Excel will grab 76 for us. Let's do another example with height and width, equals offset. I want to get the 62, 63, 72, and 73. So to do that, offset K11 is the reference, minus 3 rows going up, and then minus 8 rows to the left, and then the height will be 2 and the width will be 2. Close the bracket, 62, 63, 72, 73, and finally let's sum those 4 numbers that we just pulled by doing a sum, offset, K11, minus 3 rows, minus 8 columns, 2, 2. I forgot to close the bracket. Excel does it for me, 270. The purpose of this exercise was simply show you how the syntax works, but this isn't a great example to show you how to actually benefit from the offset function. Let's move into some actual examples that you may see in a real estate underwriting model. So in this example, on the left side, we have an amortization table. So you can see we have some debt terms. We have a $7.5 million loan, an interest rate 5.5%, a 10-year term, and 30 years of amortization. And to the right, we have cash flows. Now the issue here is that the amortization table is presented vertically while our cash flows move horizontally or from left to right. So now we need to use the offset formula to fill in the principal and interest information from the amortization table to the left. So let's go ahead, and this time we're going to do a negative offset because financing is a negative cash flow. And I'm going to set for principal the reference cell right above where the principal cash flows begin, and I'm going to lock that cell. And now I need a row argument. Above the forecasted year 1, year 2, year 3, I have just the raw integers listed as well. So I'm going to grab the 1 and I'm going to lock the row. And I'm going to leave the rest of the arguments blank. So we get 101032, and we can drag this over now. It's a flexible formula, and you can see that the 101 jumps to 106 to 112, which matches the principal cash flows in the amortization table. We can take that formula, we can copy and paste it below, and we just need to slide our reference cell so it sits above the interest. Once we do that, we can take the formula and we can drag it to the right. And now our interest expense moving from left to right matches the interest expenses in the amortization table moving from top to bottom. You may be thinking the offset formula still isn't very helpful, and I'd agree with you. It'd be just as easy to go ahead and grab the cash flows directly from the amortization table, like I just did for the first year of principal and interest. As we move into further examples, it's going to get more complex, and hopefully the value of offset starts to distinguish itself. Let's move on to the next example. So we have a very similar scenario. Again, we need principal interest cash flows on the right side here, annual cash flows that is, but now the amortization table is in a monthly format. So the exercise is exactly the same as before, but now we're going to need to use a height argument within our offset formula to grab 12 months worth of data to fully round out the year. So let's go ahead and begin with our principal cash. So now that we're grabbing 12 months of data, we're going to need to throw a sum argument in front of the offset formula. So I'm going to do negative sum offset. Our reference cell is going to be above principal again, and we're going to lock that cell. And now our row argument is slightly more complex. We're going to take the 1 from above our cash flows, we're going to lock the row, and we're going to multiply it by 12, and then we're going to subtract 12 plus 1. We're going to leave the column blank empty, and now we're going to type in a height argument of 12. We need 12 rows of data to complete the year, and we'll leave the width argument blank as well. Close it. And once again, forgot to close the bracket. Excel will notify me of that and correct it for me. And just like the scenario before, it still calculated the 101,032. But let's talk more about our row argument and what this is actually calculating. Right now it's taking cell J8 times 12. So it's taking 1 times 12, which equals 12. It's subtracting 12, which equals 0, and then plus 1. So our row argument is really 1. So it's 1 below where our initial reference is set, and then our height is 12. So it's starting here. I'm going to exit out of the formula. It's starting here in cell F11 and grabbing 12 rows of data, which equals 101,032. If we drag this formula all the way through, now let's step in to the row argument of the year 2 formula. Now it's taking 2 times 12, which is 24, minus 12, which is 12, plus 1. So our row argument is 13. It's starting at our reference cell, going down to 13, grabbing 12 months of data. The sum is 106,731. Now we can take our principal calculation, paste it below, and then we just need to slide the reference cell over to above interest, and then we'll get the interest cash flows using the exact same logic as the principal row. Let's add a little bit of complexity to our amortization table. We still have a 10-year loan. We have a monthly amortization table before, but now we're allowing for a user to input an assumption month. Sometimes in commercial financing, not only can you buy a property, but you can also assume their mortgage. You could, in theory, assume their mortgage anywhere from the first month to the last month. If the term's 10 years, that would be month 120. So now our offset model needs to account for the fact that this financing can be assumed at any time. So if we put in the assumption month as 8, what we're projecting is the current owner of a property has a mortgage, and they're going to pay 7 months of that mortgage, and then we are going to take over that mortgage in month 8. So we can highlight months 1 through 7 red to signify we're not responsible for these payments. We're taking over in month 8. Now our pro forma debt cash flows no longer match the amortization schedule like they did in previous examples. Our first year of principal payments will consist of months 8 through 19. you could see it would be incredibly tedious to have to go and grab these cash flows. It would have been easy in previous examples, but this assumption month can be anything from 1 to 120, and every time that would change, you would need to manually go into the amortization table and grab the appropriate cash flows. Not only would that be time consuming, it could potentially lead to some huge mistakes. So let's do an offset formula. I'm going to once again throw a negative sum function in front of the offset. Our reference cell will be directly above the principal cash flows, just as it was in previous examples, and our row argument's going to be a little more complex this time. So first, we're going to make a bracket, and we're going to take the year, which is year 1, lock the row, times 12, close the bracket, and then take plus, open up another bracket, the assumption month, lock that cell, minus 12, close the bracket. Our row argument is complete. We'll leave the column argument blank. Our height is going to be 12 because we need 12 months of data to round out the year, and our width argument blank, and then 2 brackets to close out the formula. And we get 104,318. If we come down here and highlight our 12 months starting in month 8, 104,318. So the formula worked. Now we can drag that over and get the rest of the years of data. Let's actually talk about what the row argument is calculating. If we come in here and we highlight that part of the equation, in year 1, we're taking 1 times 12, which equals 12. And then in the other bracket, we have our assumption month minus 12. So 8 minus 12 equals negative 4. So we're taking 12 minus 4, which equals 8. Our row reference is 8. We're starting in month 8. In year 2, we're now taking 2 times 12, which equals 24. The assumption month, which is 8, minus 12 is negative 4. 24 minus 4 equals 20. So if we come down to month 20, our second month of principal cash flow starts in month 20. We grab 12 rows of data, which is specified with our height being set at 12, equals 110,202, which matches what we have above. We can take the principal cash flows, copy and paste them in the interest, and then we just need to slide our reference cell over to above interest, and then we get our annual interest cash flows as well. So in this particular example, the offset function is actually critical. There's no way to account for all of the different assumption months that could be inputted in the model without it. And having to manually grab cash flows from the amortization table would be too time intensive and could lead to a lot of mistakes. It can actually get more complex from here. In Tactica's proforma models, there would also be an interest-only assumption. So not only can you assume a loan, you could also assume a loan within the interest-only period, which adds another layer of complexity. I suggest you go to the Tactica website and download our free multifamily template. The link's below. Go to the debt tab, open up the details, and you can look at some of these offset formulas and how they can be even more powerful when you add more variables to the amortization table. In summary, we covered the offset syntax and went through 3 different examples of when the offset formula can be helpful when you're financial modeling. In the last example, not only was the offset function helpful, it was actually necessary. The model wouldn't function or be dynamic without those offset arguments. Part 2 will cover how to use the offset formula to create flexible and dynamic charts. So when data's changing in your model, those charts update automatically. No manual action will be needed by you. If you've been enjoying this real estate analysis content, I'd really appreciate if you gave the video a like, followed along, and allowed us to notify you when we're releasing new video content. We'll see you in part 2 of the offset video series. Thanks.